Good evening. For those of you who have just joined us after closed session, welcome to this hybrid regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. I am Lisa Pelosi, Board President, and I would like to introduce my fellow trustees, Jeannie Kerr, Laura Simon, Sean Mora, and Jean Marie Wolf. I would also like to introduce our district staff, Superintendent Ruben Aurelio, Assistant Superintendent Mr. Christopher Heller, Chief Business Official Dr. Kay Vang, Director of Educational Services Ms. Veronica Miranda, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and the Governing Board, Ms. Erica Madrigal, and Director of IT in the back there, Mr. Derek Machado. Additional site administrators are also joining us this evening. We have St. Helena High School Principal, Mr. Benjamin Cinto, RLS Middle School, Mr. Andrew Ryan, St. Helena Elementary School Principal, Dr. Carmen Emery, St. Helena Primary School Principal, Mrs. Rebecca Rocha. Thank you for being here this evening. Yes, hello to everybody who's here this evening. We are delighted that you are viewing in person, on Zoom, on television channel 27, or on our YouTube channel. A copy of this board meeting video will also be available on the website at www.sthelenaunified.org. In connections with items 4A, 4B, and 4C, the board received information and provided staff with direction. I do at this point need to pull an item from the agenda, and that is going to be under item 12, Human Resources D. We have an error, a date error in the first amendment of the contract, and we have to rectify that and get that correct, and it'll come back to the September board meeting. Okay, onward we go. So if you would now join me in a flag salute, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 6A, which is public comment at our board meetings. This is for anyone who wishes to come to the podium and make a 3-minute comment on items not on the agenda. Is there anyone present who would like to make a public comment? Ms. Madrigal, anything?
There were no written public comments submitted, and there are no viewers on Zoom who wish to
Okay.
comment.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move forward to the presentations. Item A is the summary of the 2023 bond refinancing, and I'm going to ask Mr. Gayara to come up. I hope I said your name correctly. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kush Kiara with CFW. Very pleased to be here tonight to report to you on the successful refinancing of some of the district's bonds, which resulted in savings of almost $1.5 million to your taxpayers. By way of introduction, I've had the privilege of working with your district for almost 20 years now, and have participated in the bond sale of the original bonds that were refinanced at this time. So just by way of background, your district, sorry, am I doing that right? Oh, there we go. All right, thank you. Just by way of background, the voters in your district have approved 3 bond measures in the past since 1997. All of those bonds have been issued, so there's no opportunities right now to issue additional bonds. But from time to time, there are opportunities to refinance bonds. This board has availed themselves of that opportunity in the past. Whenever there's been an opportunity, you've taken it to be able to lower the cost of borrowing. And refinancing bonds is just very similar to a homeowner refinancing their mortgage. If you can take advantage of lower interest rates to lower your payments, and the reduction is sufficient, it's something that you may want to consider do. So in August, we were able to refinance some of your bonds that were previously issued, okay? And this presentation will cover the process and the results of that refinancing. So on May 18th, the Board of Trustees approved legal documents to allow us to proceed with the bond sale. I think your timing was great. I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. On June 9th, your staff, your former CBO came into San Francisco and interviewed in person with the analysts for your credit rating. Just like we all have personal credit ratings, the district has a credit rating, and the better the credit rating, the lower the cost we can borrow, the better the savings to your taxpayers are. A little bit later on in June, once we had the ratings back, we posted a preliminary official statement, which is a prospectus that goes out to potential investors of your bond and informs them of the credit strengths of the district and allows them to then make an informed decision as to whether they want to purchase your bonds or not. In the old days, you'd print about 300 books and FedEx them all out overnight. It was kind of pricey. Today, of course, you post it on the internet, it's still called printing the POS, but it's posting it, the preliminary official statement, on a website. In June of 28, on June 28th, the district sold the bonds, and in August 2nd, we were able to close the transaction, generating approximately little over $1.4 million in savings, almost $1.5 million of savings. And the timing allowed us to ensure that they'll be reflected in these tax bills that will be going out shortly. So taxpayers in your district will see the benefit in this very next tax bill cycle that'll be going out shortly. So with that, the bond rating process was where the analysts of S&P, used to be called Standard & Poor's, but S&P, review the district. They review several credit factors, and they have some questions. They had some concerns about the declining enrollment, which is a concern, of course, to a revenue limit district, isn't really a concern to a basic aid district. They did have some legitimate concerns that the economy may be heading for a recession in the future. We've been on a growth cycle for a while, and what the impact would be if we head into a recession. But I think your staff was able to very effectively deal with those, and you were able to maintain your AAA rating. That's the strongest possible credit rating any entity can get. As far as I'm aware, it's even above that of the U.S. federal government. So you can't get any stronger than you are. And going in, our goal was, of course, to maintain our rating, which reflects the strength and the desirability of your community. There's only a handful of AAA-rated districts up and down the state, and of course that helped us significantly when we went to sell the bonds, because folks want to buy a high credit-worthy bond where the chance of defaulting is almost none. So the actual bond sale, once we had the board approval and once we had the credit rating and once the preliminary official statement was posted, the underwriter, which is the intermediary that sells the bonds, went and spent about a week pre-marketing these bonds, contacting potential investors, informing them that we intend to sell these bonds, and thereby being able to get their interest on the day that we actually price the bonds. On the morning of the pricing of the bonds, this is a process which still works on the spoken word. So we all get onto a conference call. We invited the county to participate. Your former CBO participated on the call, along with us, the underwriter, bond counsel, and so on and so forth. And at that point, you lock in the interest rates. We were able to lower the interest rates from about 4%, which is what the bonds were at, down to 2.5%. Which is, I think, a great number. I think most of you are aware mortgages are probably in the 7% range today. But that then again reflects the credit worthiness of St. Helena Unified School District. And we were able to generate savings of almost 10%, which is the difference between the present value of the cash flows of the old debt service versus the new debt service is about a difference of 10%. So that's the benefit gets passed on directly to the taxpayers. And another measure is the repayment ratio of these bonds was 1.3 to 1, which is to say over the life, for every dollar we borrow, we'll be paying back $1.30, which is the interest and the principal. That's one of the best numbers I've seen in doing this for a while. The state has indicated that anything up to 4 to 1 is considered acceptable. A lower number is better. So the state says for every dollar you borrow, you can pay back up to 4. We're only paying back $1.30 for every dollar we pay back. And once again, it's a reflection of the strength of your district. Okay? So before I go to the look ahead, I just wanted to acknowledge some things I had indicated earlier on, that the pricing, the timing of the pricing was great. I want to start by thanking your superintendent. Okay? We approached him a couple of months ago with this opportunity. He saw the benefits of that, and he directed us to come to the board and to present it. I want to thank the board very much for the decisive action you took that night to be able to approve this and allow us to proceed. Our timing was perfect because the day after we sold the bonds, the federal government revised the GDP, the estimate of inflation of what the inflation would be or the growth in the economy was, from 1.3 up to 2%. Well, that's still a pretty low number. That caused the interest rates to go substantially higher the very next day. So one day of a difference could have substantially impacted the savings that we would have gotten. Interest rates have continued to trend upwards. And today, if the refinancing had occurred today as compared to when the board took action to do it, the savings would have been about $500,000. There would have still been savings, but you would have given up almost $1 million in savings over the loss of interest rate growth between when we priced the bonds and now. And I also do want to thank Dr. Wang, because I think on the first day of her job, she had a 4-inch stack of paper. She had to deal with the closing. Your former CBO dealt with a component of the bond sale, but Dr. Wang had to jump in and pick up the remainder. She asked some very good questions along the way, and she enabled us to successfully close the bond sale. So thank you, Dr. Wang, for, I know you had a lot to do on the first day of the job, and having to deal through a stack of papers was very helpful. So with that, the very last page, as far as the look ahead goes, the bond investors will continue to be updated every year. We will work with Dr. Wang and your superintendent on preparing a report that must go to the bondholders to keep them informed of the status of your district. S&P will periodically come back and review the bond rating. And once again, our goal is to be able to maintain the strength of your bond rating. They understand the strength of your community. They recognize the pragmatic management of your board, of your finances, and they are also understand that you do have good reserves to be able to weather economic storms that may be coming your way in the future. But it's our goal on an ongoing basis. Anytime S&P comes knocking at your door, which will be every other year usually, to review the rating, we would work with your staff to ensure that we maintain our rating, which is the highest possible rating. We'll continue to monitor any future opportunities there may be and make your staff aware if to refinance bonds. I don't see, given where interest rates are doing, I don't see that in the near future, but we'll keep an eye on that. And also we'll monitor opportunities to generate additional funding through bond programs, and if directed by your staff in the future, happy to come back to you and discuss with you opportunities that may be available. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to continue to serve your district. It's always been a pleasure working with you and your staff. It's great to work with a district where the bonds sell themselves. And I think one of the things I didn't mention is on the day that we were selling the bonds, there was about 3 times as much demand for the bonds as we had to sell. We had about $11 million of bonds to sell. But folks really want to put their money in a safe investment right now. And there's not that many AAA bonds that come up for sale. So there was over $30 million of orders for the bonds. And then the underwriter had to parse them out. And that's to our benefit, because that allows, selling bonds is demand and supply, and that allows us to lower our interest rates further. So it made it very easy for us to sell the bonds. The work that the board is doing, that your staff is doing in allowing us to maintain your rating and to be able to sell those bonds. And we will be keeping an eye on any opportunities that come along, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? No. Okay. Trustees, any questions, comments about this agenda item?
Thank you very much for your service to us throughout the years, over the years. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just keep coming back and delivering great news like you just did.
We'll try to do that.
And yeah, thank you very much for that presentation, for simplifying it for our understanding as well. I appreciate that.
Excellent.
And Dr. Vang, way to go on that first day to do that as well. So thank you so much. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Good night.
Okay, item 7B is the facility projects update. Dr. Vang, please.
All
right, good evening. So as you all know, we've had several big facilities projects happening, and today I wanted to take an opportunity to just give you an update as to where we are with these facilities projects. We're going to start off with the St. Helena Elementary School roof replacement project. It is currently underway. Erica, there we go, thank you. With this project, we removed and replaced over 64 square feet of roofing. We installed new copper gutter on buildings A, B, E, G, and L. Principal Emery can attest to the fact that our construction workers have been there on the ground working over the summer, and even on, as school started, they're still there, and on weekends, making sure that we are on schedule for completion date, scheduled for September of 2023, this year. Moving on to the next project, we also have the Robert Louis Stevenson Track and Field. With this project, we were working on replacing the existing natural turf and cinder track with the new synthetic turf. This track will include a 6-lane striped all-weather track, and we are also working on accessible egress routes and incidental planting and irrigation. So there are some pictures showing the progress of this work with a completion date of December of this year. And then moving on to St. Helena High School, we have 2 projects going. We have the roof and the HVAC replacement. We removed and replaced approximately 28,000 square feet of roofing, along with one of our HVAC units. The scope of this work included the rehabilitation of water-damaged classroom, room 209. And the roof project is, if everything goes as planned, which we are on schedule, the completion date is scheduled for September 2023. And room 209 is open for the fall semester as well. Moving on to the St. Helena High Hall of Fame, we have we're remodeling the gymnasium lobby to include finishes, fire alarm, and lighting, including ADA improvements to the gym restrooms. And this project is scheduled to be completed in October of this year. Then here at Vintage Hall, we have the chiller replacement project, where we are replacing 23-year-old chiller with a new cooled carrier unit to serve the entire administration building. And this project is ongoing with, do we have a completion? Let's see. And that project, we're actually working with Greystone West. We are working on an engineer who can actually give us a quote for one of the units that we're working on. So this we actually are not quite, not that we're not on schedule, but we don't have a time when we may have this done until we get the engineer to give us a better idea of the chiller itself. And then moving on to the high school and the primary school paging system project, the IT team is working on bells and announcements. Also, the front row Juner speakers, which will be staged and installed at both the high school and the primary school. This will happen throughout the school year. We've got equipment features such as Bluetooth, voice amplification that will be usable by staff once they're installed. We also have our IT team working with our maintenance team to develop recabling projects, and you can see there we have some goals with these with this paging system project, and this paging system project is being paid out of our Fund 40. And I believe That is our update for our facilities projects. Are there any questions?
1 second, please. Is there any public comment on this agenda item?
I do have a few Zoom participants.
Great.
Anyone on Zoom care to publicly comment on this item? If so, please hover towards the bottom of your screen and raise your virtual hand.
No? Trustees, questions about this agenda item? No? I had one question, and more just of just curiosity. On the paging system, using, it's obviously Bluetooth technology, do we have an idea of how long that technology will last and benefit us with technology always changing?
I actually have Derek, Mr. Machado, our IT here to answer those technical questions.
Thank you. I did call you an IT wizard earlier, so.
That's good. I left my hat and my robe in the back room, though. President Pelosi, can I ask you more specifically when you say Bluetooth technology?
Well,
do you
I'm
mean-
just, I'm reading over that slide, and I'm sorry, I lost my slide here. Let me.
Is that the Juno speaker
Well,
system?
just kind of knowing, knowing that how much we have to always refresh technology. Do we get to live with this for 5 years? Do we get to live with it for 10 years? Any idea of what the lifespan for us might be on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So RLS has been using the Juno speakers for about 4 years themselves. They use it for voice amplification. They use it for Bluetooth. They use it to play sound from over their Promethean boards, from their laptops, sometimes even their phones if they'd like to play music. So I don't anticipate these going away for a while. The original plan with the speaker system was that the Juno speakers were going to play bells and announcements over them. We are shifting away from that. However, the Juno speaker still does have great functional use in the classroom for voice amplification and that Bluetooth ability. So we believe going forward they will remain.
Thank you so much. You lived up to your title. Trustees, any other question or any? Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Vang. We'll move on now to communications and to the superintendent report, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good.
All right, there it is. So very pleased to have started the year off really strong. We got to introduce a new principal this year to our middle school, as well as new staff sitting at the dais this year. So it's been a really exciting start of the year. So I'm going to briefly move on to the next slide. So bringing back just a bit of reflections, we started midweek. Prior to that midweek start, we did have a special meeting where we did increase our caps for 3 grade levels and made offers to families in 4th, 5th, and 7th grade. Just all offers were made. We're going to be bringing a report in September, which will be the DOC report. So we'll wait and give you final numbers on how many families accepted the offer for those grade levels. But what you see on the screen is our updated, as of, I want to say, pulled this on Monday, our enrollment for our classrooms and for our school. And you can see we're hovering right about the 1,100 threshold, and we broke it down by our schools, reminding us all that the St. Helena Opportunity Program is technically now its own school, has its own CDS code. And that's the SHOP program that's housed at the elementary school. I'm going to skip ahead. So one of the wonderful things that I've been able to do since the start of school is spend a lot of time in classrooms. I've been making weekly visits to all 4 campuses. I average between 3 to 5 classrooms when I visit and spend between 10 to 15 minutes in those classrooms. It's been really nice to see grade level spans and see our teachers in action and our students learning. I was blown away by our kindergarten team. I think it was day 3 or 4, and the students it looked like they had been there for a month. I mean, they were ready to go, doing phonics-based instruction, practicing their letters. I was just really impressed. The other person that I was really thoroughly impressed with is our transitional kinder teacher, Miss Landis, who is functioning on one leg. I don't know if you've had a chance to see. She had an accident this summer, and so she is in a cast on her lower leg. So she is scooting around with 16 4-year-olds. It's really impressive to see. But really just wonderful to get into classrooms, see our students really excited for the year, seeing the connections that our teachers are making. One thing to, we talk about the best kept secret, right? Which is we have some amazing teachers, but also the opportunity to serve kids in some really small classrooms. And that comes also with a benefit. So we do have a lot of personalized attention. Our teachers, even a couple weeks in, you can see the relationships that are building with our students. And I invite all 5 of you to join me when you have an opportunity. You receive my schedule weekly so you can see my upcoming visits. And if you want to tag along with me, visit classrooms, I really encourage you to do so. Moving on. Last night, we had a wonderful back-to-school night at the elementary school, and next week, we have 3 in a row. They're not sequenced there by date in a row, just don't get confused. The first one next week will be the middle school, and then followed by the primary school, and ending at the high school. And these back-to-school night events are wonderful for our community to visit the classrooms, get to know the scope and sequence for the year. The teachers really cover a lot of information for our families, and everything from how to get in touch with your teacher, how communication will function at the schools, and everything that we have to offer for the students. It was really nice to see the turnout at the elementary school. I think Dr. Emery did a fantastic job translating the session in the auditorium, going back and forth between languages, making sure all our families were really connected. And actually, a shout out to our parent group. I was really impressed with Ms. Pesh and her translation. She did it herself. She did English and Spanish, and it was really commendable to communicate with our families. So that was really nice to see. So just some important dates coming up that the board might be interested in. We do have coming on the 12th, our PLC coach that will be working with our 4 sites. That person will be here all day, working, visiting with the principals, visiting with the ILT teams. I know we have the Monrovia group. That is a meeting that happens with outside agencies within the city and the community. And then we have scheduled, just as a reminder, a special board meeting on the 14th. That is for the unaudited actuals. And that's strictly based on timeline. We have to make sure that the board has reviewed that and approved it before the September 15th deadline. I know there's a lot of interest in the calendar committee, and I'm sure Mr. Heller will speak to that at some point. And that is, just to be clear, that is a closed committee. I just want to acknowledge that there's a limitation on the number of people that sit on that committee. We want to give equal representation to that group, but we are going to be collecting feedback. We know there's a lot of interest in the next set of calendars, and it's typical for whenever we negotiate calendars. And then, of course, exciting homecoming week, just as a preview coming up. That is, mark your calendars, September 25th through the 29th, which will end with the parade and, of course, a wonderful game. I hope everyone can attend. I did want to announce we've posted on the website, but we have a communication going out early next week on Monday, just reminding all our families and community that we encourage attendance at our football games. We love it when families are there, but we want to make sure that if you're bringing your TK to 8 student, that they are accompanied and supervised by an adult at the football games. We love seeing our families out of the games. And the first home game is next week. Really ending here, I think, with communication. I want to remind the community that we do have a number of different communication features. We started last year the web feature, Heard It Through the Grapevine. That's an opportunity for our families, for our community, when questions arise about school district functions or concerns. This is a feature. You can go to our home website and find the Heard It Through the Grapevine link, and there you can ask a question or pose a question, and you don't even have to include your name. And then we review it as a staff, and we will post the answer, as long as it's not personnel based, and we can't post confidential information, but we will attempt to answer any question that is posed. And I think that was helpful last year to dispel some rumors and things that might be out there in the community. Best way is to ask the source. Come ask the question, and we will answer. We're going to start post board meetings, that's a wrap. That will be a summary of our meetings here, and making that available to the community so they can see what the highlights are from the board meetings. And then I've sent out 2 of these already. We're working on the September sort of issue of the From the Desk of Superintendent Aurelio, and that is a communication that goes out to our families. And I also share it with this St. Helena Star and ask that they publish it as well. And that's typically highlighting things in our district. So the first one, over the summer, we highlighted the construction projects, because I know there was a lot of construction this summer. And then we had a August one, which was a back to school issue. And then I'm looking to highlight and showcase the primary school in the next issue. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, any questions? Mr. Aurelio, would this maybe be an appropriate time under communications to talk about how requesting translation?
Good. Thank you for that reminder. So we have made a structural shift in our board meetings. We typically, via Zoom, always had live interpretation. What we discovered, reviewing the data from the previous year, that I think it was never utilized throughout the year. So we are making it available, but we're asking the community to let us know in advance. We're giving a good 72 hours notification, and if someone tells us they will need interpretation, we will make it available. These meetings are recorded, and the subtitles that show up on YouTube can be translated into Spanish as well.
Great.
So it is always available that way.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 8B is the subcommittee reports, and Mr. Aurelio again, please.
Great. So this is a quick one. Since school has started, we have only had 2 subcommittee meetings. The first one, we'll just go ahead and skip ahead, was a board policy committee, and that met on the 21st of August. President Pelosi and Trustee Simon, you were there for that meeting. We did bring a significant number of policies. They're not here yet tonight, but they will be coming at the next board meeting for the full board to review, many of which are just procedural changes and adjustments based on law and policy that have been brought forward. I don't know if either of you want to add anything.
No, I don't, that's
Yeah,
fine.
it's fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
We get a lot of policy updates throughout the year, and we just bring them when we can. We review them first. And most recently, our discipline committee, which we formed on August 22nd. That is, 2 days ago? Yes, 2 days ago. And we had President Pelosi and Trustee Mora. I am going to ask, though, from the group, officially, we need someone to be added to that committee, I think, because Trustee Mora came as a guest, but right now, President Pelosi is the only official member, correct?
Oh, I that was not the impression I
Okay,
was
no,
under in that
okay.
meeting. But
Okay. All right.
Trustee
Since it's a new
Mora,
committee, I don't know.
No, exactly. What was your understanding? Did you?
I don't know if we need the full. So, discipline committee only had officially one trustee,
Right.
President Pelosi, and we invited Sean to come to this meeting. But I think the recommendation is that we would want to have the group decide who that second trustee should
I
be.
see. And I apologize.
Yeah, no. That's okay.
I felt that
Yeah.
that she was the second trustee, and
I just want to make it official. If we can make it
yeah.
official.
I'm okay with that, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I figured it wouldn't be.
Congratulations, you're on another committee.
I just want to be clear. I know we try to balance our committees.
Okay.
Welcome, Trustee Mora, officially. So, do either of you want to speak to what we did? Maybe Trustee Mora.
Maybe she would, because I talk a lot tonight. So why don't you?
Well, I don't know that there was more, because I looked at what you summarized and the slides that were attached, so it was
It's all there.
really, I mean, it's about what is it that what do we want to, we have to come up with what we want to accomplish, and we will review those in the meeting. Sometimes it's probably subjective, sometimes it'll be with data, but the goal is really just review of practices. So similar when we talk about making sure that everything that we do in our district is equitable, doesn't have barriers. It's the same thing within a discipline area. Like, are we doing the right things from beginning to end that's the best for the students and safety and all of our staff, so.
And I would think the only other thing to add is that from a board perspective of having board members in there, since our role is having to do with policy, is it's so for us to learn as board members, what's really happening at a site level. The intention is not to micromanage our site administrators, who are the ones that have to, work through the investigation and decide what punishment. It's if any policies need, as we move along in this committee, what I'm assuming will happen is we'll determine if any policies need to be revisited, edited, adjusted, modified, however you want to, for St. Helena Unified. And I think that's the perspective that we're going to come into it as board members. We don't need to get into, it's not our purview to be involved in individual discipline cases. It's high-level policy. So that's what we're after.
And if people are interested, the QR code is to the slide deck, which I believe had 60 some odd slides with data. So if you're interested in the discipline data, the committee did look at 4 years worth of discipline data. And so that is all there and transparent for people to see.
Thank you. Okay, item 8C is the St. Helena Teachers Association report to the board, and we have a new face this year. Welcome. I won't call you by your first name, that's too casual, so I'll allow you to introduce yourself. And
Hello, my name is Mark Lulsdorf, and it's kind of interesting. I realize this is another hat that I'm adding. I've been a parent in this district for a while now, since my daughter is in 6th grade. She's now a senior in my class. I've lived in the community for 17 years. I've taught here for 20 years. I've coached for 16 years, and now I've decided to also be a union president. So there's a long, I don't know what that is, but it's something. It counts for something, I think. And I just wanted to mention, I don't have a bunch of stuff to say, but I wanted to build on, probably the main thing is, I think one of the nice things that Brandon Farrell did was build a positive, constructive relationship with the district. Contrary to what you hear in the news and a lot of other places, I think that we have a really good partnership at this school between the union and the district office, and I'd like to continue that to be constructive and positive. I think that's just the best way to go, and so that's what I want. That's the model I would like to continue. And ultimately, I believe, if we have happy teachers here, we have happy students, and that's ultimately why we're here, is to make sure that they're having the best possible experience they can. So other than that, I don't have much else on our agenda. I know that I don't know if my message on the enrollment went through last week, but we are, as a staff, 100% behind the districts in encouraging some kind of critical mass in the maintaining some student population levels. So, but that's about it. I don't have anything else to add unless somebody has any questions.
trustees, any?
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
My only request is if when you bring to the board, when you have support from your teachers, I would love to know the process and how you gain majority support. That's
okay.
my only
Not
request.
a problem.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, transparency is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Anybody else?
I just think it's great that you just keep finding new things to be involved, because a lot of people after a while are like, oh, I'm so done. But it's just great to hear you taking on new challenges and new roles at the school.
Well, thank you.
So we're very fortunate.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's helpful that I live within biking distance of here, so you probably see me buzzing around town. I did try, little side note, I had to go over to RLS, and I realized it takes me about 10 minutes to bike over there, so if you see me feverishly biking across town at odd times during the day, that's me trying to go to one of the other campuses. But it's doable, so, and it's slightly uphill to RLS, I found. It's much quicker coming back. It doesn't seem that way, but that's one of the things I learned, so.
That bike is what keeps you so youthful as well.
That's right.
So,
that's right. So
I can't believe you have a senior already, and as well, thank you for wearing another hat for all you do. Appreciate it. We look forward to having you here.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to D, which is the California School Employees Association report to the board. And yes, Mr. Barry, you come on, Perry, come on up.
Well, I wasn't prepared
Oh, if you'd like to.
Thank you, Chairman Pelosi, Mr. Aurelio, and fellow board members. I do bring you greetings on behalf of each and every member of the classified employees. We started our school year with something unique this year. We had a fellowship together with our all of our administrators, and we had our site reps. We had our union president. I'd like to, before I go any further, introduce my board members who are present with us tonight. We have Rita Vitale Ortega, who is our vice president, and we have Nikki Myers, who is our secretary. Thank you so much for coming, ladies. I put 12 hours today in the primary. It's been a long day, but we love our school, and I have no doubt. But when I talked about our fellowship, it gave us an opportunity to stress important things that I thought classified workers should do, and they listened to us. We asked for technology for some of our lowest performing staff members, our cafeteria workers, not so much our maintenance workers, but our grounds people. And this is a school that you must be able to go online to file your Ready Sub. You can't even get a job at Sealing Unified if you don't know how to use a computer. And with the help of Mr. Heller, we're going to have some technology classes for our girls, because a couple of cafeteria workers came up to me and said, "Hey, Dave, can you show me how to use a Chromebook?" Sure. They were not charged. It did not come with a Gmail address. And so we got them back online, especially for our mandated training. We also, the school district provided shoes for classified people on playground staff, cafeteria workers, grounds, and maintenance. And so I thought that was really great. Mr. Heller had an employee come up to him on Tuesday, I believe it said, and, "Hey, I just want to thank you for the great pair of shoes we had." We also asked our board to, if they would shadow classified employees like they did certificated employees, so they would know exactly what we do in a day in, day out. So I'm really proud that that would be one of the things that we're working on doing. Is everything perfect? No, but in the real world, we're still pretty blessed to be in St. Helena. We've had a few things we're working on. We haven't quite got them in place, but we've agreed to work at the lowest common denominator. And if that's the case, I think we'll be able to solve any problems. I don't believe any problems is too great. I believe more people think we have problems, but we really don't. I believe there's only 3 problems in this world. Number 1, are you dying? That is definitely a problem. Are you going to jail? That's a problem. Number 3, are you going to be in the media? That is a problem. Everything else is just a situation. So I thank you so much. I hope we don't have any more situations and not problems that we can deal with. I'll open the floor up to you if you have any questions for us or any of our board members. Feel free to fire at us and we'll take our best shot.
Thank you. Trustees? I had a question. If we want to shadow, should we contact the principal of a site or who would you like us to contact? Contact through you or?
On my visits, I can
Do that as well? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's great. Thank you for that invitation and thank you so much for being here.
I do want to acknowledge Dr. Vang has been on every single bus route already this year.
That's great.
Every single bus route with all our drivers.
Thank you for doing that, Dr. Vang. That's
Okay, thank you so much.
all right. Thank you again for being
Thank
here.
you for
Appreciate
being here
it.
this evening.
Okay. Oops. Item 9 is the consent agenda. And let me just get here. The consent agenda contains routine items judged as appropriate to be acted upon in one motion. If a board member requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda, that item will be considered under discussion action items. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Any written or Zoom comments? No? Trustees, any questions or requests to pull any items?
I would like to request pulling 9J.
9J, okay.
Do I need to say why or no?
No, no, you don't need to at this point. Just pull that. Any other items to be pulled?
No, thank you.
Okay, so what we'll do is approve the consent agenda, minus J, and then we'll come back to that. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the subtraction of item J as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Mora? Trustee Simon?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carried. So item 9J is the approval of the 2022-23 budget revisions between June 1st, 2023 and July 31st. And I actually was going to request to pull this as well. And you talk first and then I'll.
I just haven't seen this report before, this format. Maybe since I joined the board late last year, I just wanted to be walked through what's the intent, what am I approving, because a lot of the line items are cut off, so I just didn't know what I'm approving, that's all. So I need an introduction to this attachment.
And I will say that it was confusing to me because and it could just be a different way, Dr. Vang, of doing things. And I think I was in the same mindset of what am I improving? Why is it not in a financial agenda item per se, business operations, and why is it here? So just a little bit of clarification, please.
All right, so the report that you are looking at is an actual report from Escape, which is our financial system. In the past, former CBO presented a very similar report. What you didn't see where it was the actual description in the middle here that basically tells you what you're approving. And then you see the debit and credit. In the past, what you saw was the report had an increase or decrease column instead. The report that you are used to seeing in the past is not, it was a actual snapshot of all the budget transfers within that time period, which is June 1st through July 31st. So it's a snapshot, and I believe that you guys are used to seeing that report in that format. This report is it's not a snapshot. It's an actual report with the same information. Just you see, instead of seeing the increase or the decrease, you see a debit and credit. Debit is a decrease, credit is an increase. And with this report, what I like about this report is, like I said, it's an actual report from Escape. I can pull it for specific dates, whereas the report that you were seeing before, I have to pull it for the entire year and then cut off pages for that. So I can go back to doing that if that was what you're familiar with and would like to keep that. The other thing too is this item in the past was actually also under consent. For example, the August 18th, 2022 regular board meeting had this same item under consent, and it was I kept it in the same area for consistency. If you would like me to move it to the business piece of it, I can shift it down, but it was my understanding, looking at prior board agendas, that it was under consent. So I'm open to doing what the board is comfortable with.
Thank you. That's super helpful for me. And I went back like 6 months on board agendas and didn't see it, so did not go full year. So that's on me for not going back that far. I'm, for myself, comfortable leaving it right where it is. It sounds like it's not something that comes up monthly anyway. It just was not familiar in my head, and that's why I just wanted to get clarification. But Trustee Mora, did you have something else you wanted to?
No, so if this happens once a year, but this is from, I guess I just can't see the dates.
Okay.
I see the date of 6/12/23, but is this a full year that we're looking at?
No, it's not. It is from June 1st all the way through July 31st. And then in September, I will actually bring back another report because as I'm working on closing the books, I may need to do some budget transfers to make sure that the books, I can actually close the books. And so I will actually come back next month with a follow-up report, because as I'm closing the 22-23 financial books, any transactions, any budget transfers I do will be backdated to June 30th, which was the last day of the 22-23 fiscal year. That's just how our escape system works, because we're working on a fiscal year. And so when I come back with those, so when I'm completely done closing out the 22-23 books, you'll get another update, just like you have in the past. So I'm following that, same process.
And then just to tie it in, we also look at warrants.
Yes.
That would be a line item on here because of paying out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just making sure I understand the way they're aligned. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Trustees, any other questions?
So just to clarify, so it's going to be, we'll see it more on a monthly basis than an annual basis then, is that correct? Monthly or a couple?
No, it is my understanding that this has only been brought to the board in the August and the September board meetings. But I am more than happy to bring this to you every month. I actually did that in my previous district. I brought it every month, a budget report and the warrants. So I can definitely do that as well.
I'm fine without not seeing it every month. That's fine. That's fine with me. But so you said you were going to see it again in September. Those are like the closing entries.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Trustees, everybody comfortable with that? Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on this item J of the consent agenda? No? Okay, is there a motion to approve item J of the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wolf.
Aye.
Trustee Mora.
Aye.
Trustee Simon. Aye. Trustee Kerr.
Aye.
President Pelosi.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you again. Okay, item 10 is the adoption of Resolution 23-4 Hispanic Heritage Month for September 2023. I would like to ask one of my trustees to read that. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Laura Simon, would you like to read that, please? Yeah.
I would love to. Okay, St. Helena Unified School District Resolution 23-4, Recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month, September 2023. Whereas Hispanic Latino Heritage Month is celebrated nationwide from September 15th to October 15th, recognizing the rich history, culture, and contributions of Hispanic and Latino Americans. And whereas this year's theme, Latinos Driving Prosperity, Power, and Progress in America, will focus on the themes of prosperity, power, and progress, recognizing the significant strides of Hispanics and Latinos in the economic, political, and social growth of the U.S. Whereas the St. Helena Unified School District is committed to fostering an inclusive and diverse learning environment that values and respects the cultural backgrounds and experiences of all its students, staff, and community members. And whereas Hispanic Latino Americans have contributed significantly to the economic, cultural, and political development of the St. Helena Unified community. And whereas the student body of the St. Helena Unified District is composed of 53% Hispanic Latino American students, and whereas celebrating Hispanic Latino Heritage Month provides an opportunity for students to learn about the history, traditions, and achievements of Hispanic and Latino cultures, promoting greater understanding and unity, and whereas the St. Helena Unified School District aims to promote cultural awareness, inclusivity, and equitable education by recognizing and celebrating the heritage of its students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the St. Helena Unified School District Board of Trustees hereby acknowledges and celebrates Hispanic Latino Heritage Month for September 2023. And be it further resolved that the district encourages all schools to incorporate educational activities, presentations, and events highlighting Hispanic and Latino Americans' history, accomplishments, and cultural contributions.
Thank you. You did perfect.
Thank you.
For randomly just calling on you. So thank you so much.
Can I promote an event that?
Yes, absolutely.
So I know that in October 12th, the primary and elementary school will be hosting the Fiesta de Octubre, and that'll be at Lyman Park. And if I'm correct, it's 5:30 to 7 p.m. Is that correct, principals? Yes. All right.
Okay.
And I hope you all can make that. It was a wonderful event last year.
Lyman Park, correct?
Lyman Park.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone participating via Zoom or who's present would like to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 23-4 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, item 10B is the request to accept gifts, donations, or earmarked funds. I'm going to also pick somebody. I'm going to pick on Trustee Kerr to read the list of donations this evening,
I would
please.
be happy to. Thank you. The board is asked to accept with gratitude the following donations. St. Helena High School has received the following donations totaling $22,100, and they're all for the 2023 scholarships. $700 from Larry Varland, $1,400 from the St. Helena Chamber of Commerce, $5,000 for David Cummings, $5,000 from the St. Helena Rotary 3 times, so $15,000 from the St. Helena Rotary. Thank you so very much to our community, as always, for always being so generous. It's pretty amazing.
That it is. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Is there anyone present or participating via Zoom who would like to publicly comment on this agenda item? Okay. Trustees, any questions, comments? Okay. Is there a motion to accept the gifts, donations, or earmarked funds as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carried. Item 11A is a written report on the 22-23 Local Control Accountability Plan monthly presentation. Mr. Heller, please.
Good evening. I'd like to take a second and take a look at the LCAP calendar for the year. As the board and the community knows, we are in the last year of our 3-year cycle, so this is an opportunity for us to encapsulate the work that we've done in the last 3 years and begin looking forward to the development in the spring of our new 3-year LCAP plan. So with that, just to highlight a couple different things on the calendar. The first in September and October, we have some presentations of some high priorities in our district. One of them in September will focus on the PLC, professional learning community work being done in the district and at each site. And so we'll develop a presentation that will highlight some of the work that we've done already and some of the things that we're looking forward to this year. One of those being aforementioned the professional learning community coach that'll be in District 6 days working with our different staffs. And so we're excited about that. In October, you see that we have a presentation on mathematics and an initiative in the district that is gaining traction called Building Thinking Classrooms. And Tom Lewis, who has been recently employed as the district's secondary math coordinator, and Kathy O'Connor, who's been our math specialist TK5, will provide a presentation on where we stand in mathematics and give a little bit of a glimpse into building thinking classrooms so the board has an idea of what those instructional practices look like. Also in October, the principals will be bringing forward their site strategic plans, which are in alignment with the LCAP goals and the work that they're doing at their individual sites. And then in the subsequent months, they do a report out and a spotlight of the work that they're doing, as I mentioned, on their site plans. So it's a little bit of an opportunity to check in on how the progress is being made for the board and the community to ask any questions at that time of the action plans that they've created. Also in January, I put it in January that we usually have typically done our student data study session, but I understand that we may provide an additional or a replacement one in October or early November at the board's request, so we can easily amend the calendar to reflect that. But at the time of printing, this is what we had for January, so it could be easily amended. And then as we start turning the calendar into 2024, March provides an opportunity for community engagement. And last year we conducted a focus group session here inside the boardroom with many of our community partners. And we will probably not only do something similar to that, but we will also have some type of survey to send out to really kind of gather complete information to help us begin the process of developing what that new 3-year LCAP will look like. So we'll give a little bit of a report on that in April, and then in May we'll bring you the draft copy of what the LCAP looks like for that year. So anyway, that's just a glimpse of some of the work that we're doing to support year 3 of the LCAP, and I would entertain any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone present or participating via Zoom who would like to publicly comment on this agenda item? Okay, thank you. Trustees, questions about this agenda item? I think, Mr. Heller, I have a question, and it doesn't necessarily have to be answered right now. You alluded to the fact that the board wanted perhaps some kind of study session or a data session earlier. I know we've talked about this as well in meetings, but if we do that, I mean, is that going to be feasible for staff? I want to understand staff capacity around that. And yeah, how far in advance? If, you know, I mean, do you want us to get that directive?
I will say we were looking at calendars, and I think October might be tight, but early November potentially as a study session. And Mr. Heller and I are actually in discussion with Steve Reese, who is the person who has developed the dashboards. I think I've shared with you some of the dashboards, and we're looking at potentially having Steve come and lead the study session with the board as an outside perspective looking at our data. So we're in discussions to see what that's going to look like.
Okay, great. And then, you know, let us know how we can either clarify our ask or however we can help that move along for November. Because I know data is still coming in at that point. We've talked about that, but we want to be reasonable, but it would be good to have some kind of tracking in that time frame. I think that was the desire of, okay. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, I didn't answer anything on that question, so you're
Sorry,
welcome.
Mr. Heller. Go ahead.
Oh, that was funny. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, 11B is the written report on the summer school programs. This is a written report, board members. So I'm going to first say, is there any public comment on this agenda item? Is there someone present or via Zoom? Okay, no. Trustees, questions about this agenda item?
No, I just appreciate the report.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, and it's the numbers are impressive at the elementary school. It's nice, 44 students, so that's great. That's really
Yeah,
good. It was
absolutely.
It seemed to be for me. It seemed like it was a better summer school as far as the numbers than I thought it was going to be than I anticipated. So, Mr. Hull.
And I'm not sure we could attribute to it to this cause, but maybe it is the fact that we had a kind of a shortened summer school, so it wasn't nearly as long, but it just lasted through the end of June. So it was a 14-day summer school, which seemed probably a little more doable for families and students as soon as the school year ended, and then they had the July month and a little bit of August to enjoy their summer. So it wasn't as long.
Right.
So that potentially might have drew more students.
Okay.
That's great. Yeah.
So we will continue that practice next year as well.
Okay, that's great. And as always, I thank all of our employees who participated in our summer school
Yes.
as well. It's very, very much appreciated, and I know our students appreciate that as well.
Yes. Thank you for the report.
I did
Brit-
have a question.
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
That's okay. I was actually curious, aside from the numbers, and it was great. I loved seeing I know we reviewed what the plans were, but it was great to see what actually happened in the pictures and all that. I was curious about how do we know the 44 kids, how do we know what they needed to work on, and did they achieve? What did they achieve in those 3 weeks? It was 3 weeks, right? You don't need to answer it here, but I guess that's what I would be interested to know is like, what was the outcome of the time they spent?
Do you want to? Okay, come on up to the.
Hello.
Good evening. Hello. Yes, so we, at the elementary school, we were fortunate enough to have 3 of our teachers be the ones that taught those lessons, and one for every grade level, actually. So an actual 3rd grade teacher did the 3rd grade summer school group. The 5th grade teacher did the 5th grade. Well, they were shared 4th and 5th, and our reading interventionist did the 4th grade group. So these are teachers that had these students the entire year, were teaching them actual grade level curriculum throughout the year, and knew exactly what to do or what they needed, who they were, where they were. And then also they had a chance to talk to the teachers of all of the 3rd grade. So for example, Ms. Bond that did 3rd grade, she had the benefit of her team and knowing what kids were going to be going before the year ended.
Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Trustees, anything else this evening on that? Okay. Okay, item 11C is the presentation on the 2023 professional development calendar. Okay, Miss Veronica Miranda.
Yes, I want to say buenas tardes, buenas noches. I think it's still light outside, so I want to say buenas tardes. So I get the opportunity to talk to you about the professional development calendar, and so we provided 2 documents for you. One, a written document that has a little more detail, and this right here is just an overview presentation to provide you. And I'm going to start off by saying that whenever we do professional development, or another term I might use is professional learning, it's about alignment. So everything we do, we want to make sure we align. I use the example of, just the rowboat. So we need to make sure that we're all moving in the right direction, rowing in the same way, so we can get to our district goals. So that is the intent as we do this. And I'm not going to read the district goals in here, but I can tell you that when I stepped in and began to, stepped in and looked at the district, one of the first things I did was looked at our goals. And so this really encompasses what it is we want to do. Not all districts have these components, and it just tells me that the focus is what it needs to be. If you click on the next one for me. This right here is district staff development goals that we have, and so I talked about alignment. Now, if I would have revised it a little bit, I would have taken that second bullet of MTSS to the very first one. So this is all about how do we nestle, how do we provide the professional development and the goals to align with everything. So the first thing is we have MTSS, which is multiple tiers of support. That is no longer just the academic piece that when I began as a teacher, we really just focused on that. We need to make sure we provide supports for our students for academic, behavioral, and social pieces. So that is just that's the system of support that we have in place. The next thing you'll see, and what you'll see in our development plan, and it's really heavy on PLC. It looks like a really broad brush. But really what we're doing is providing a system where we provide professional learning or development and then make sure we implement. So many times we go out and we learn, but are we really implemented in the classrooms? Our PLC is an opportunity for our teachers to gather at a weekly level, take a look at those 4 questions we talked about. What is it we want our kids to learn? How do we know if they learned it? What do we do if they don't get it? And what if we do if they do? And so that really speaks to just the work that we're going to do. And so that's the focus this year, because we know that the first level of instruction is Tier 1, which is the MTSS, is where we should be getting 80 to 90% of our students. So that's why you see on focus, and that's why we're investing so much time. That's why the district, when they hired me, went with a team of educators and teachers to conferences like the PLC and the MTSS. And having a team that included administrators as well as district office administrators and teachers, and actually on one we took our nurse. I'm going to tell you, districts don't do that for different reasons. When you send a team, that's when you have that connection and that synergy to be able to do some really good work. So I'm really excited of what we're going to do moving forward. We definitely want to look at the support for our English learners. We know that we want to look at our subpopulations and see how we serve them, so we're going to continue to build capacity. And that's, as I step into this role, it's about the continuation. It's about honoring the work that's been done here before and making sure we just get better on that. Looking at data to drive instruction. So we have assessments in place, but we want to make sure that when we spend the time to give the assessment, we use it. That goes back to the PLC. What is the data telling us? What are we going to do about it? And then moving into training on equity culturally, so making sure we have understanding that there's that social, emotional, that cultural awareness, that we're meeting the needs of our students, is also a piece of equity that we have, that we carry that equity lens, because it doesn't look the same for everyone. And I think we've probably all seen that picture where we have the students on different, the different boxes kind of looking over that baseball field, and I don't have it on here, but that's part of it, to be able to give our students what they need. Right? Not everybody needs the same thing, but they all need something, so we need to provide that. And then, of course, continue to build that social emotional learning that as COVID, it's always been there, but when COVID hit, it really put a lens on the needs of all of our students. And so we want to be responsive to that for our students and also our staff, and that goes back to our goals. Can you click the next one for me, please? Thank you. And this was just a quote. I sat in our training when we did our kickoff with Mark, and this is actually one of the quotes he had up there. And so really the word, if I were to do an activity with you and I say pull the word, really for me was an ethos, an infusion. When a community works together, and it's not just our teachers in the classroom. I was talking to Dr. Vang, it's how our transportation department works. And I'm just going to highlight them. I've seen this transportation. They meet the needs of our kids. Things we don't even ask, they do, because they want to make sure that every student has what they need. And it starts when they enter that bus. It starts when they set foot on the campus. It's perhaps the custodian. It's perhaps our cafeteria workers. So it's everybody working together to provide the needs and meet the needs of our students. Can you click the next one for me, please? Thank you. And this is just a quick, just an overview. You'll see a monthly vertical articulation. And so, like I said, you'll see that very heavy there with PLC. This doesn't mean that this is the only thing we're doing. But this is really our core of the professional development or professional learning that's happening, that our administrators are helping also provide and actually delivering some of these pieces in year to support and go. And then you'll see that TK-12 articulation, because it is important for our system to understand they're not just our high school kids, they're not just our TK, they are our students. When they get to the high school, they've been ours. And so making sure that we're talking to see what are the needs and what can we do better, so when they step in and they make that jump from 8th grade to freshman, when they make that jump from 2nd to 3rd grade, what is it that we need as in our campuses to make sure that our students are able to excel in that. Click the next one for me, please. Thank you. And so I just highlighted, this is in your report, just the vertical when we're focusing on the PLC process and the teams that we're sending, the dates. And so now we have, we are a PLC district, which once again, across the state, you don't always see that. So being able to take and talk, and so there's collaboration in the PLC, with their administrators. They're part of that. Here at the district, we're part of that to make sure that we support them along the way through this journey. And it's not just a one-year journey. It's going to be years. However, being able to look at the data, that's going to measure the growth. And we're going to see the growth in academics, probably not as much as we want to see, but we're going to see it because we're going to measure. But there's also other ways we want to measure that. What is the culture and the climate of our students and our teachers? Are we having that open mindset as we move forward to meet the needs of our students? And you're going to start seeing. I already see it. Even BTC, the Building Thinking Classrooms. It's a professional learning, but it's part of that PLC process, so we want to make sure we align it. And so I'm seeing just the conversations, just what I've seen in the classrooms, just the fact that we've got our students having conversations, because many times they're very silent learners, is just going to also just rise so that we can meet the needs. And I think that was the last one, Ms. Erica. Yep. So any questions that I can answer?
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
You answered mine in what you shared, so thank you. That was, I appreciated the detail, specifically around what was happening on those vertical articulation days. So for like the TK to 12, what's happening on that? Thank you.
I appreciate your presentation enthusiasm, and I'm really excited to learn more about the PLCs and all the hard work that our administrators and staff will be doing this year around that. Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree. That's exactly how the TK-12 articulation, both on the 1st of November and May 1st, I'm happy to see that because then it's 2 chances for all of our staff to be together. And exactly what you said, I'm really excited about PLCs and seeing where we go with it. So thank you very
And just
much.
know, just like any good plan, there's adjustments that happen.
Exactly.
So that's, when we look at those dates, we're looking at to meet the needs. So just know that they're there, but it's going to happen, and we might just need to do some adjustments for the TK-12 articulation, but we want to make sure we meet the needs.
Oh,
So
of
just
course.
to
No, so thank you. Thank you.
And I appreciated having the whole year calendar. It was nice to see that when like food service was having, their professional development. I mean, that's just something to know, because I know we always hear it for our certificated staff a lot, but it was really nice to see. Office staff, library media, food service was really great. So thank you for sharing that information.
I'm going to give kudos to Dr. Vang.
Okay.
Because she put that on. I'm like, oh, put it on there. So thank you, Dr. Vang.
Maybe she thought of that when she was riding the buses. Okay, thank you very much. Trustees, everybody comfortable and ready? Okay, great. Thank you. Item 11D is consideration of approval for the TK-8 World Language Adoption. Mr. Heller, please.
Yes, last June, you may recall, Mary Allen presented this item as a first reading for the work done throughout the spring of last year to review, select, and pilot TK-8 World Language instructional materials. And so these items have been available for the 30-day public viewing after that and since that first reading, and they're brought back this evening for the governing board's final approval. I will say, just as a matter of process, typically the first readings usually occur either in April or May, and then the final approvals in June, so we can order the materials and have them ready to go on the first day of school. So this was just one of those things that it was just an error. So we'll just, own that and just move on. So I just want to make sure that the board's aware that the timing is usually a little different than it is tonight.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone participating via Zoom or present who would like to publicly comment on this agenda item? Okay. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? No. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the adoption of the TK-8 World Language Adoption as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carried. Okay. Item 12A under Human Resources. Consideration of approval for increase in certificated substitute rates for the 2023-2024 school year. Mr. Heller, please.
Yes, so fiscal staff and human resources staff met this summer to review our substitute rates from last year, which provided a 10-day increment for days served to increase $10 for each day. What we found, it was a little confusing to not only the substitutes, but it was very difficult to manage in our payroll system for our employee. And so while we were trying to think a little bit outside the box of ways that we could attract and retain employees by days of service in district, we kind of found it was a little difficult to manage. So we took a look at some other, as we do each year's other sub rates, and we found another district that has the ones that are proposed tonight in a similar fashion, that we would reward those that have a credential and are substituting in our classrooms with a little bit more than those that just have a daily permit. And so we also took a look at the salary structures. You know that these salary structures change, just like we talked about plans changing. Substitute salary structures change as districts realize they need to recruit as well. So we felt that our rates were competitive and they were fair for our area, and will continue to yield the pool of substitutes that we need. So I would ask that you approve it this evening.
Thank you. Is there anyone present or participating via Zoom who would like to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, questions about this agenda item? I had one clarifying question, and can you just define caseload versus no caseload?
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
caseload would be if I'm taking over for a teacher out on a long-term leave,
Okay.
and I'm assuming the role of a daily teacher where I'm grading and assessing and doing those types of things.
Okay.
That's why it would have a little bit more of a daily increase than just a long-term sub that we pay at a long-term sub rate. That's not assuming that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now that I'm thinking, I do have, so long-term, what is is it a couple, 2 months, 3 months? When is a long-term?
It varies. It could be a couple weeks to a couple months.
Wow.
6 months. Yeah.
Okay.
It just
But it
depends.
can be as short as 2 weeks. Okay.
Sometimes we offer the long-term rate for 2 weeks just to make sure that we have somebody in place that's providing consistency.
Okay.
Is there still a shortage of substitute teachers?
There's a shortage of teachers in the state, and there's a shortage of substitutes. We're not finding daily issues as we did 2 years ago. It seems that we're fairly adequately staffed, but we just want to make sure that we maintain that amount.
Great. Thank you. Anything else, trustees? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the increase in certificated substitute rates for the 2023-24 school year as presented?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wolf.
Aye.
Trustee Mora.
Aye.
Trustee Simon.
Aye.
Trustee Kerr.
Aye.
President Pelosi.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 12B is consideration of approval for consents to teach for the 2023-2024 school year. Mr. Heller, please.
So each year, teachers who have adequate background and coursework may be permitted to teach outside of their credential area with their consent. So the 5 that we've presented this evening have met that criteria and have agreed to teach these following courses. I'd just like to go through each of them just to explain a little bit more of the reason why. So with leadership, one would need to have an English credential to normally teach this within their credential. But with that being an elective class, a consent to teach would apply here. Mr. Larson with physics would have the same. He has a science background and enough coursework that it would allow him to teach physics. He has expressed an interest in taking the CSET next year to obtain that physics credential. He didn't realize he was going to be coaching football this year, so the time kind of got away from him there. Ms. Smith has a background in American Sign Language, but she doesn't have a credential in that area. And then Mr. Harrington, we found, does have that credential for the high school, but apparently needs this consent to teach at the middle school, which is a little strange nuance. So those are the reasons why these 5 are brought forward to you this evening.
Thank you. Is there anyone present or participating via Zoom who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions on this agenda item?
Chris, I have a clarifying question. Why do we see that? Do we typically see this on this month's and not before the school year?
We finalize the master schedules, and then it usually comes forward in this month. Once the master schedules we have them, and then Melissa has a little bit of a period of time to go through all the credentials to ensure that the sections match up with what is being taught and with the credentials that the teachers have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it possible to do it in June, or is that too soon?
We don't have the staffing kind of in the master schedules worked out perfectly at that time because
Okay.
we actually hired a few staff in the summer. So potentially we could do it in August in the future. It's okay to do it in this month, but we could do it in August or September.
Okay. I know, because typically we do approve these positions and
Right.
take the recommendation, but I just was thinking about the timeline and doing it before the school year begins in case there are any glitches and it's not approved after an employee has already begun.
That's true. We would have to have a July board meeting to, and I don't know. That's not in my. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't
just
know if
some
we
food
want
for
to do
thought.
that.
Just
Yeah.
good to know. Thank you.
Okay.
I have two. Oh,
No, go
sorry.
ahead.
No, two quick questions, RLS. The public speaking, is that an elective?
It's
or
just
is
it's leadership / public speaking,
Okay,
and so
altogether.
it's leadership, but it's coded as leadership public speaking.
Okay. And what about sign language? Is that an elective or?
It's an elective, yeah. And there's actually, I want to say 22 students in there in the maiden voyage, right? 23.
Wow. And is that a quarter long class or like they take it for a quarter?
It's in the wheel, yes.
Wow, great.
That's awesome.
I knew what that meant.
I thought he was doing it in sign language back there. I was trying
It looked like sign language, huh? Thank you, Andrew.
Trustees, any other questions? No. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consents to teach for the 2023-24 school year as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf.
Aye.
Trustee Mora.
Aye.
Trustee Simon.
Aye.
Trustee Kerr.
Aye.
President Pelosi.
Aye. Motion carried. Item 12C is the corrected oral recommendation regarding salary and/or fringe benefits for Christopher Heller, Assistant Superintendent. And this is me, and I'm just going to read something for the record here. Excuse me. The background is on the screen there, attached to the agenda. During the June 15th, 2023 regular board meeting, the board received an oral summary regarding the revised employment contract for the Assistant Superintendent, Christopher Heller, effective July 1, 2023. The oral summary contained a sentence related to future compensation changes that did not match the actual language present in the contract amendment. For the purposes of full transparency, I will provide a corrected oral summary of the salary and compensation for the Assistant Superintendent. The fully executed contract amendment is attached to this agenda item. Effective July 1, 2023, the district shall pay the Assistant Superintendent an annual salary of $249,218. This represents placement on Step 7 of the board-approved salary schedule for executive cabinet positions. Effective July 1, 2024, the district shall pay the Assistant Superintendent an annual salary of $255,554. This represents placement at Step 8 of the board-approved salary schedule for the executive cabinet positions. Any changes to the executive cabinet salary schedule shall be negotiated in good faith between the district and the assistant superintendent and approved by the board. Thank you, and apologies for the error initially. That will wrap up 12 human resources. Now we're going to go on to 13 business operations. Contracts over $25,000. Dr. Vang, please.
Thank you, President Pelosi. So I believe we have 3 contracts that are over $25,000. The first one is our annual MOU between Napa Valley Unified School District and the Napa Valley Adult Ed Program. This contract is not to exceed. Actually, this is a pass-through. So the district receives about $30,000 in pass-through funds, and it is to provide classes for adult learners for this school year. Our second MOU is with Solution Tree. This is for professional development, tie-in to, I believe this one is.
This is our
Coach. This is our Coach one. And this is not to exceed $39,000, pay out of Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. These are one-time dollars that we are using to pay for this contract. And then the third contract is Dell. This is to provide mobile devices for certificated teachers. It's part of our refresh program that we are implementing. And we are paying for this out of one-time dollars, ESSER funds.
Thank you. Is there anyone present or participating via Zoom who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, questions about this agenda item? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the contracts over $25,000 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, 14 is facilities. Review and consider approval of change order number 1 for the RLS track resurfacing project. Dr. Vang, please.
Thank you. So a little background. On April 20th, the board awarded a CMAS contract to Bunyan. This is for part of the RLS Middle School track surfacing project in the amount of $347,000. It changes in scope, meaning that we're going to change the track color from blue to Bunyan red. This is going to result in a credit of $24,000 back to the district, and the staff recommends approval of this change order.
Thank you. Is there anyone participating via Zoom or present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? One thing I noticed on page 2 of that change order, there is, when it says, when signed, the Novato Unified School District.
I did see that.
So, I don't know if that needs to be changed.
That does need to be changed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I caught that one. So, yeah. So I just wanted to bring it to attention, however you want to correct it. But I, do you see it when it says when signed on? Page 2? Yeah.
It's
Are you on that?
It's the very first
Or if
sentence
you
on
look
that
behind
page.
you too, Laura.
It's in fine print.
Yeah, it's just.
Yes.
So that might just be something to note with on the change order. So.
Yes, thank you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. Is any trustees any other questions, comments? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the change order number 1 for the RLS track surfacing project as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carried. 14B is review and consider approval of change order number 1 to the Bowman Landscape and Construction contract for the RLS track and field project. Dr. Vang again, please.
All right, so this is another change order for the RLS Middle School Track and Field. We have the change order requires that we provide a contractor, QSP, so that we can provide temporary irrigation in front of the school during construction. And this is a standard practice to have a QSP done to ensure that the stormwater procedures are being followed by the school district. Anytime there's construction where you're moving dirt, this is standard practice, and so this was brought to the board for approval.
Thank you. Is there anyone present or participating via Zoom who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
So just for clarification, so this change order specifically is for the groundwater?
It is part of that, but also, as I stated earlier, when I was speaking with our, Great Stone West, who's our construction management firm, it is my understanding that anytime there's construction that's happening that involves moving dirt, this is required, and we didn't have it in place, so this change order is needed.
Okay. Yeah, it kind of seems odd that they wouldn't have included that from the beginning, unless this has to do with the discovery of that water.
That's what I was, I guess my question is the
That's
discovery
what
of the
I-
water, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Kerr. That's what I had thought too, but when I spoke with our construction management firm, that is actually not the case. We have a SWIP plan that's in place, and the SWIP plan, have specific modification plans on it, so we need to have an expert out there who's handling this piece for us.
And SWIP is Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I'm assuming it's on the first attachment of the justification. I noticed that there was a change order regarding, it was about drawings, because the drawings could not be found, or they were not reflective. So my question is, are we ensuring that we have new drawings being done that will live in the historical archive, so that going forward they can be referred to for any maintenance or repairs, because we don't have to pay for that again, for all of a sudden somebody say we don't have drawings. I want to make sure that so let me just, our new as-built drawings being done as this project progresses, so in the future an accurate and updated set can be referred to for any maintenance or repair issues that may arise. That was my question.
It is my understanding that that is the case. Let me double confirm that
Okay.
with our
Okay.
construction management firm, but that was my understanding that that's the plan.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'd appreciate just to clarify, because just when you see that and then it's extra money, it thinks, you would think we would have had that. So thank you for that. Trustees, any other questions or?
Did we ever actually find out the cause of the unknown water source?
No, we did not. We worked closely with the city. The city came out and did their inspection. No one is 100% sure, not the city. I believe the city was working with another contractor to figure out the root source of the water, and we have not gone, we were told that it's basically groundwater, but that's a lot of groundwater. But we didn't, in working with the city, we don't believe that it's a leak on our end or on the city's end. So that was good news.
And it shouldn't, with this trench, we shouldn't have issues with our track because of groundwater that will be higher in the soil when we have a lot of rainwater, which we did this year. So
it's my understanding that they're actually building and they're building there's a construction piece that they're working on that will mitigate that issue, so that way we don't have the groundwater issue ruining this brand new
the drain.
track.
That's,
Yes,
item 3.
that
Okay,
we're
perfect.
yes, that we're building.
Okay.
And it sounds like that QSP person should also be kind of have some accountability oversight on that as well. That's kind of how I interpreted that position.
Correct.
Okay.
Do we have any kind of, our district have any kind of protection or something in case the groundwater does come up after, if we have a hefty rain and it's not working as we planned?
I would go back to our construction management firm. I would work closely with Great Stone, and because we've hired them as our construction management firm, they would deal with that on our behalf.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, but that is great. That is a very responsible project management question to ask, because if we are fortunate to get all, but it'd be good to know in that kind of in a guarantee type of way that our $5 million track is not going to be saturated. So, but we'll leave that in your capable hands to manage that with Greystone. So, thank you. Anything else, trustees? Okay. Okay, let me see. Go back here. Is there anyone participating via Zoom or present who wishes to publicly comment? Oh, I already asked that. Okay, thank you. You're like looking at me like, why are you asking me that? Now we're ready for a motion. Is there a motion to approve the adoption of change order number 1 to the Bauman Landscape and Construction contract for the RLS track and field project as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Item 15A is future agenda items. You can see there, September 14th, we have a special board meeting regarding unaudited actuals and the GAN limit. Gone. Oh boy, it's not even that late. Okay. And then our regular board meeting is on September 21st.
I do want to note a change. We will not need the SELPA Learning Recovery Plan progress report, so that'll get scratched off.
Okay.
Yeah, we won't be doing that one.
All right. And then we have a board workshop at the end of September as well. Trustees, any subjects for future agenda items? Yes.
I had 2. First off, I think that you shared at some point that we had to notify if we wanted to move from district of choice to some other alternative a full year ahead of time. So I'm wondering when we have to start that discussion, because I assume it takes a while. I don't know. But doesn't have to be next month, but I don't know. I'll leave that to you to
Right,
decide.
we will start that in the fall,
It
the
just
ID.
was in my mind
Yep.
since we just had that meeting.
Correct.
And then, secondly, I guess I received a letter about some concerns about the TK program for aftercare. I believe all of us received it. I guess what I was going to ask is if we could have something presented of what's going on, what's the plan, or so that it's.
So
just
we
out there.
are looking at that. In fact, I'm not sure if it's on here, we are going to be bringing back the ELOP plan, and that will help us resolve the TK issue, which is the Extended Learning Opportunity Plan funding source. So
Does that equal TK? Sorry.
it will.
Okay.
Yeah, we're working on a solution for that problem, and we should be bringing that at the next regular board meeting.
So September, you think that will be to us? Okay.
Yes.
I can concur that we all did receive that email. So we're all in the know about that. So it'd be good to, what are,
And I
either if
could
we have
provide the
options or
board something.
plans.
Yes.
I think it's beneficial for the trustees to have just a short summary of what is happening else in our neighboring school districts. I think it's just helpful. I'm not looking for a long report, but I think it's beneficial for us to understand what's happening, since it's new for everybody, just at other districts as well. And is there another component that?
Isn't there like a multi-tier rollout where it extends certain months or age groups?
Well, TK,
I don't know
yes.
where we are in the TK
We're
rollout.
one more year from having the full 4-year-old cycle.
So I guess my question would be, is if there are options that need to be presented, we understand those, and then is it correct to assume that we have to approve funding for those things?
And that's what the ELOP plan
that's ELOP.
would be,
Okay.
to adjust some funding to address the issue currently.
Okay.
And ongoing.
And then we will start planning for next year what that will look like
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
without spilling all the beans.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry. No. So as far as the SELPA Learning Recovery Plan, that'll come back in a future.
I'm going to ask Veronica, do you have information on that?
Yeah, so looking at reports, so I reviewed last year, and what it is they were funds that were approved by the SELPA and they expired. So basically, it was an update of funds that are no longer available for this year. So if there's a new plan, I will bring that forth.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
meeting with the new SELPA director, just to make sure that we have what we need, and I bring to you what I need to bring.
That's
So for
perfect.
now, that one is kind of done.
Okay.
And then if I need to bring you a new one, I will.
Okay, that's
Thank you.
perfect. And I believe there in the past, we would have a written report from the St. Helena Preschool for All.
Right.
So if
We've
we
we've
could-
made requests for that, so hopefully that will be.
Okay,
Next month.
on September.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
And then Trustee Wolf, you'll be up first for your Adopt a School report. Okay. All right. Trustees, anything else? Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Mora? Aye. Trustee Simon?
Aye.
Trustee